Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're joining me today. I am actually doing a little bit of a sneak peek today here with a new release coming up soon in March for the spring. And I'm using these two stamps here. One is called the Hello There and the other one is Beautiful. This one here is the Hello There and the second one there is called the Beautiful Day. So I'm going to make two very simple spring cards. Unlike the usual cards that I make, this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I thought I'll just try this. So I'm using these three different color fuse inks, which I've chosen, a yellow, blue, and a pink. And I'm going to start off with this stamp set here, the Beautiful Day, and I'm going to stamp this image. It's a large floral image. It's kind of a negative stamping image. So keep in mind, because there's a larger surface, you may have to stamp multiple times to get a good impression. Now you could prime the stamp, which I did not do it here. For priming the stamp, all you have to do is take a clean cloth, wipe the surface off, and then if you have like an eraser or something, just rub it over that and then wipe the surface off, and that should kind of prime the stamp before you can stamp it. Don't worry about the splotchiness. The color fuse ink is beautiful. They do smooth out after a while, and you will see that when it dries up. And I'm going to stamp that 2 more times with the other colors, and I'm going to use the coordinating die and die cut them. Here you can see how they've been die cut, and you can see how they've all smoothed out beautifully. So now I'm going to use this on a long card, but before that I want to choose a sentiment, and for that I'm using a note of thanks. Now an easier way to die cut these sentiments, especially when they're so intricate dies, it kind of gets hard to kind of keep them aligned. So what I do is I die cut the die cut on another cardstock, and I try to align that with the word, stamped word, and then I put this die within that negative space and then run it in my die cut machine. So what that does, it makes it a little more easier for you to die cut that word die. It's easier when these kind of sentiment dies. And then I'm taking, this is a tall slimline card, which is cut to 9 1/4 by 3 1/2, and I'm going to place these three oval right on top of it. But I feel like before I added that, I feel like it needs something more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 3 pieces of cardstock. You can see they're not exactly the same colors, but they're in that same color range, and I just wanted to do that purposely because I didn't want them to look all similar but yet have a little bit of like they're still same but a little bit different in the tone and the shade of the colors, and that kind of brings a little interest to the color variation of the card. So here I'm just going to add these 3 strips at the bottom, and I'm going to adhere there, and when I start to adhere there, you will notice that I did not align these perfectly. And that's perfectly fine because I do have those ovals coming over them. But I did do a little bit of trimming after I adhered, and I think I've kept it in the video, and you will see that in a bit. So here you can see I'm just adding them. The first one was okay, and then when I went to place the second one, I did not align it exactly the way it should. Now, card making is such a fun thing that you have to keep in mind that all of these are handmade, and you as an artist has the freedom to do whatever you want. So that means to say, if you intended to put it wonky, you intended to put it wonky. I wanted it that way. So you can call it whatever you want, you know, but sometimes it bothers me to have things wonky. So here you can see after a while I figured it out. Oh, there you see that's that difference there, and when I tried to put it on top of it, it was still bothering me. So I tried to peel the pink one. Oh, it was starting to tear. So what I then did is I realized the edges of those were not fully adhered. So all I did is just took a scissor, and I cut that off, and so kind of made it similar. They were still not similar, but they were enough to kind of put behind the oval, and it did not matter too much. So I'm just going to adhere these 3 ovals on top of this note card here, and then once I'm done with that, I will place the sentiment. And I also added a little bit a blink to it, and I'll show you in a minute here. I'm just kind of adjusting the pieces, just making sure that this is scented. And you can see this is so much not like the usual cards that I make. This is a little bit different. So I went with the cottagecore kind of a country vibe for these kind of like a vintage cottagecore kind of a vibe for these cards. Let me know in the comment box below if I achieved that look. Anyway, and then now you can see I'm just adding some bling. So I have this embossing powder which has gold flecks in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add that to the center of the flower. So I'm just adding some glue drops into the center of the flowers, and then I'm going to just scoop a little bit of this embossing powder and I'm going to put it on top of that, and then I'm going to dust it off, and all I'm going to do is heat set it, so that way the glitter sticks and stays in its place. So you can see here, and then it also adds a little bit of shine to a very simple, actually very simple card. And as I said, this is a very easy, simple card. All you do is stamp those images in different colors. Of course, you can choose whatever color you like to stamp these images, and they're really so pretty. They're so intricate. You really don't need to do much to these stamps. They just look beautiful by themselves. And here you can see I've added these gold specks in them. And then I just decided to add a few crystals too, some stones, and I chose some colors that are very similar to the colors in the cardstock, so some blues and pinks and some yellows, and I just scattered them around this card, and that pretty much completed this card. In a second here it will be done as I struggle to put these in. Here you can see the finished card. For the second card here, I'm going to do a little bit of an extra step, and I'm going to start off with the stamp set, and I've stamped it with the pink what do you call, of color fuse ink, and I've stamped it multiple times to give it a good impression. And I've taken some pink Copic markers here, you can see, and they're all in the shades of pinks and reds, and all I'm going to do is add a little bit of interest to it. So I'm just taking the darkest here, R29, and I'm just flicking exactly where the lines the artist has drawn for these flowers. I think these are cone flowers if I'm not mistaken, I don't know. And then I'm taking R24 and I'm flicking again right over the same lines. So I'm kind of maintaining the integrity of the flower as is, not taking it away from what the artist has drawn, but just kind of adding some color to it. And then I'm adding some R32 to blend that, and then I'm going to very soon add, I think, R21 maybe, or 20. There you go, R21, and I finished it with R00, and that was all that the coloring was. And then I just did the same thing for the entire floral image, including the stem. Actually, even the stem I kept it in the same pink color because I did not want to add any other color to this. And here you can see how I've completed that, and I'm just finishing off the stem right there with some lighter pink shades without adding any reds to the stem to give it that little bit of variation. Again, the colors were similar. And now that the coloring is all done, I am going to die cut this piece using the coordinating die. And after I'm done with that, I'm also taking a white top folding note card. Now, as I started it, this is not a top folding note card. This is just a 4 1/4 by 5.5 cut piece. And initially I thought I will cut the scallop die on that piece and then adhere it to the top folding note card. But then I realized, no, I'm going to directly cut the scallop piece on a top folding white note card. And I also took another smaller piece and I cut it using a pink cardstock. And here you can see how I cut that piece right there. So it created a window. And I'm taking this paper pack which was released last spring, and I'm going to choose one of the papers from this paper pack, and I went ahead and chose this. Again, as I said, these cards that I've created are so much not like my usual cards. This is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I think it turned out really pretty. Let me know about your thoughts. Anyway, and then I'm going to take this Stripey cardstock designer paper, which was also released early on, I think last year, somewhere mid. It's called a marble paper or something like that. I'll put it in the description box below so you know what it is. And then I'm just going to layer this and create how I want this card to look like. And so I want this colored layer, the stamped layer, to be put onto that scallop piece, but then I didn't like the way the pink was looking, so I added that same color fuse ink that I stamped the image with onto the edges, but that wasn't doing it either for me. So here's where I decided I'll do some gold dipping. So I went ahead and took some embossing ink, and I rubbed that ink pad, the embossing ink pad, onto the edges, just the corners, and then I dipped it in the gold embossing powder, and you will see soon. And then all I did, I kind of heat embossed it, and I kind of liked the way it gave that gold edge, almost made it look like all, like, you know, the old albums. My grandparents used to have an album which used to have those gold pockets in the corners, and you would put the pictures into those pockets. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. And kind of it gave that feel to this particular image, and I really loved it. And then now it's all that's there to do is to build it, but I think I'm going to do the sentiment here too. So I'm just going to pick up the stamp set to see what sentiment, and I think I really like the sentiment which says hello there friend. I love the font of it, it's just stunning. And I actually went ahead and heat embossed it with gold embossing. I stamped it and embossed it with gold embossing powder, and die cut that using the coordinating die. And it's such a beautiful font, and there it says hello there my friend. It's just pretty. So what I'm doing here is laying that cardstock, the floral cardstock in there, and I just want to cut it to size so that it's easier for me to do the next step, so I can visually see how far I need to go with the other elements. So I've not adhered anything yet, and now I'm just going to place that stripy paper in the middle of this floral card. Now if you did have a ribbon or something, that would look beautiful as well. I did not, and I also wanted to use some of this designer paper. I heard designer papers, but it's sometimes very hard for me to know where to use it. So this was, again, as I said, this was a challenge to use those designer papers and use multiple designs and textures and different kind of design, like floral with stripes and stuff like that, just to kind of create that interest. And so I just added some foam tape behind the stamped image, and I'm going to adhere this to that gold gilded piece that we created, and you can see how beautiful that turned out. I just loved it. It just turned out so pretty. I'm also going to add some foam tape behind this piece as well, because I want this piece to be popped up onto that background so that it does not clash, because remember, there is a lot of prints in here, so you don't want it to clash, and you want to create those dimensions so that way you can show the difference, that you can show the change in patterns and designs, if that makes sense there. And then all that was left to do was to adhere this piece to the center of the floral piece that we have created here. And you can see here, I'm just going to put this down here very soon, but I decided I should first add this inside. So all I did is added the glue just to the frame. Do not add it to the bottom, but to the frame, and then we're going to just place this inside and then close the card, and there it should be all adhered to the top of the. Actually, this also, by doing this way, it eliminated another layer, so the bulk of the card kind of decreased by not adding another white layer, if that makes sense. And then I'm just going to add this to the center and just cut away the excess. And this is the time where I kind of clean up all the edges so that there's nothing hanging out and stuff like that. And then I'm going to take the sentiment, add another foam tape behind it. Again, I want the sentiment to stand up as well. So I did add some. Now I'm just about placement, and I decided I will place it a little higher up in the center there, and that placement looked nice for me. And I'm just going to add this, and once I was done with this, I did want to add a little bit more interest, so I picked up a few ivory pearls. I just felt like this needed pearls and not stones, so it just has this beautiful feminine cottagecore vintage feel to this to this card. So you can hear it in my voice. I was so excited creating something that I usually don't create. Anyways, so I'm just going to add these gemstones. These stamp sets are so beautiful and they're so versatile. Stay tuned because I do have a few more videos coming in the next few weeks or so with multiple ways of adding colors to these stamp sets. And here are the finished 2 cards. And here are some close-ups of these cards that we created. I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, as I say, stay tuned, there's more to come, and I really hope you hang out to see more. Thank you, have a wonderful day, bye bye.